as we bring you through the tunnel, through the gate, proverbially and kind of literally. Stretching over 4 miles in length, we get to focus on the Wisconsin countryside that is home to Elkhart Lake's Road America that has successfully stood the test of time. Decades of motorsport innovation simply couldn't leave this track behind, and instead, it's like a fine Wisconsin cheddar. It gets better with time. Welcome to Pit Stop TV and the virtual Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin. My name is Andrew Cardinale IV with Blue Carl alongside, and it's a pleasure to join you for coverage once again of North American Racing League GT3 Season number 9. Tonight's coverage from Road America is brought to you by Muradness, by JS Consulting, and by Screw Compressor Service Incorporated. Blue, as qualifying opens up on the racetrack, practice has just closed down, and it is very clear there is a big distinction this evening between pros and pro-ams, at least on the timing chart. That said, especially in qualifying where the driver makes all the difference, you can't slipstream. I think we might see a little more crossover. Here's a look at Road America, the world-famous racetrack that you and I have kind of been talking about for the last 10 minutes or so, and have actually kind of agreed in a weird sense. It almost resembles a smaller Le Mans that was turned into a permanent racetrack as opposed to still being open roads. And Road America has its roots in being open roads, just like Le Mans, just like Watkins Glen.
Absolutely. I mean, these first few corners up until about turn 5 to turn 7-ish area, 1, 3, and 5 are all very fast, faster than you would think that they are. Just looking at this, you look at that and you think, oh, that's like a second gear corner. No, that's third or fourth gear. And you got very long straights all around the circuit until you get to around what I would call to be Sector 2, maybe Sector 3, which is the area from 8 to 11. This area, this carousel area, maybe even dropping it all the way back to 7, is a very long, very technical part of the track that if you mess up, you have a very long straight in front of you to punish you for it. Get punished for that, obviously. You're going to lose a position or two if there's cars behind you. And 12 through 14 is also similar in a way. It's almost like the ending of Le Mans. It's not quite as technical as the ending of Le Mans, but it's in as earlier portions of the track, like the Porsche curves. But it's similar in the way, just a little bit technical, still fast. You gotta be on your feet for it, and you have to be ready to do all of this again.
Lap after lap, and these laps, while it is a 4.04 mile track, they go by relatively quickly. In these cars, about 2 minutes long, which isn't too much longer than the laps we saw the last couple of weeks, the last couple of rounds at Suzuka NVIR. Now, Road America, I will say, we were talking about as well corner marshal stands and why, and that might give it away, but why turns 2 and 4 are labeled as such. This racetrack does have a lot of elevation change, which I think gets lost because you look at this top-down version and it also kind of loses the sense of scale. I think just in every way, looking at this top-down version, just the outline of the racetrack, you lose the scale of how truly massive this facility is. You also lose the idea of how much changes topographically throughout the lap because you are going up hills, down hills, over crests. It's a lot of moving up and down. Just as much as you're turning left and right, you are changing elevation throughout the course of the lap. So it is definitely a very undulating course, and in that way it's a little bit twisty, but hey, we've got a lot to talk about this evening. We can talk about the track all night long. Let's take a look at point standings coming into this round. 6 rounds complete, 2 to go, including tonight. This is also the final race that can be counted, there we go, as a drop in the 8 rounds this season. So these pro drivers, it's go time. You know, we were talking about this as well before we got going. I think really it's a 5-car battle. I think it looks good to say it's a 6-car fight. Marginally better, at least, than saying it's a 5-car fight. But realistically, I think Roman Pascucci is just about out of this thing, unfortunately. It's down to the top 5, and really, it's Juan Blena and Ralph Benitez versus one another right now. But this could be a comeback round for Resende, Rubilar, Filippa to get into the fight. They certainly have a much easier path to get back into this for the championship. Pascucci, you know, frankly, he needs the 5 ahead of him to have a really bad night tonight and not have a good result to fall back on. And I think the overall probability of all 5 of those drivers having a bad night and none of those 5 drivers having a good round to fall back on as their drop is just extremely low, because then he also has to execute absolutely perfectly top 2 or maybe 3 in both the heat race and the feature, and then again repeat the same thing next week.
and I'm going to bring this comparison up because I really, really like it. It's almost like the 2025 Formula One Championship. I don't know if there's any Formula One fans watching right now, but if anyone can remember, it was Max Verstappen versus the entirety of McLaren. McLaren came out on top, but barely. Max Verstappen just didn't quite have the perfect run. Pascucci needs a very similar run to keep himself in contention here, and just like everyone was saying with Max, it's very unlikely that we're going to have 5 drivers have very bad nights tonight and tomorrow night. Not tomorrow night, sorry. Next race.
Yeah, next race is a good way to put it. I said next week a couple of times, and the next race for these pro drivers is in 3 weeks on May 28th. So that's the pro battle. If we look down at Pro-Am, it's a little bit different and certainly a lot tighter at the top. Only 3 drivers included in this fight right now. Noel Marone, Paulo Goday, and Blas Diaz. Everybody else is definitely effectively cut out of the championship at this point in time, especially as points can be a little bit harder to get if you're down here in Pro-Am. So it's definitely a fight between those top 3, the 28, the 155. Keep your eye on them. I would consider them, with how much we see change, with how volatile this class is each round, I would consider them nearly even right now. I mean, very, very close to one another, because they can be first and second in class at the end of this race very easily. Any of those 3, first, second, third even, but they can be split apart 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 positions, and that point differential can get made up or get doubled very quickly, even if they're 1, 2, 3 on the racetrack in their class at the end of the night. So keep an eye on that. We'll try to follow everything as best as we can today. Obviously, a lot to talk about in this pro category as we're into the final 2 rounds of this pro season. Next week, we actually have the finale for the amateur side. They'll be headed right back here to Road America. We had the schedule change back in March that, of course, pushed Watkins Glen for the pro guys all the way out to the end of May. So that's that. We get to talk about some GT3 cars fighting this evening on the racetrack here, Blue. I'm excited. It is definitely one of those racetracks where, even if it's not your favorite, I think it's easy to admit it does typically provide some pretty doggone good racing. And if you look at the weather conditions as well, it's worth noting, pretty cool racetrack, pretty grippy out there. These guys, this should be a dream as far as qualifying goes. You see 8:16 a.m. It's a cool morning here in Wisconsin. There's a lot of grip.
A lot of grip. I mean, 69 degrees level of grip here on the track today. It's going to be beautiful. I think we're going to see a lot of fast times here. I mean, we already got we got almost everyone in the pro category at 201s here. We got some 202s coming back into 9th and 10th for Mateo and Resende. And some pro-ams are keeping up here. Pro-ams are keeping up.
And look who's first. So, we're saying, oh, Roman Pascucci needs so much to go right. Well, he's batting 1,000 so far, going for pole position here in qualifying. We'll see if he can hang on to it. It's only by 12 1/1000ths of a second right now, and I do expect the top end of pro and even pro-am qualifying to be very, very narrow. So Roman Pascucci just ahead of Marco Saavedra, and they are teammates. Ralph Benitez currently 3rd in qualifying. There's the number 43 teammate to Jackson Rosende. Here's Victor Veloso at the number 10. How about Ricardo Rico donning some new colors as he's made the switch over to P1Docs.com over the couple of weeks between VIR and today here at Road America. Juan Blanat here in the SDR Aston Martin runs 6th in qualifying. Nicholas Rubelar now for Team NARL over in 7th spot. And this is a driver who now has 5 race wins on the season, whether it's the heat or the feature. And as Pascucci goes fastest by over a 10th over Marco Saavedra, Rubelar does pick up, but he's still 2/10ths off pole. That puts him 6th now, as Ricardo Rico gets right up close to pole, but Victor Veloso breaks that wall down.
Pascucci was absolutely happy when he saw a lap time in. I think he had his fingers crossed there. No, the fingers alone being crossed were enough. He needed to cross his toes too.
Nicholas Mateo very quick at Suzuka a couple of rounds ago. Bottom end of pro qualifying currently, but there's still time. And Daniel Antunes, as far as pro goes, he is on the very bottom end, literally. He doesn't have a time in yet. He's currently scored 28th in qualifying, but that's all, of course, unofficial with 50 seconds left to go in the session. There's NARL Marone. He is currently 11th overall. First, though, pole position right now in Pro-Am by just a little bit over Miguel Colon in his Ford Mustang, sitting second. Jacob Stofko sitting third. As this qualifying session comes to a close, really no rounds left chambered on the pro side other than Mateo and Antunes. I don't anticipate too much of a swing from either one of those drivers, and I don't see a single Pro-Am driver still on the racetrack with a time in that can still set a time. Jose Ramirez doesn't have a time yet, but he's technically on the racetrack for another few moments as qualifying will close down. Mateo does go faster. That's third. That is a big swing from 9th to 3rd there for Nicolas Mateo, as Daniel Antunes will go 12th overall and Jose Ramirez will not get a time in. That wraps up qualifying. I do quickly want to hit our power rankings coming into this evening, Blue Carl. Here they are. Nicolas Rubelar has jumped up to top position, but look at how many positions, weirdly, have stayed the same. 4 of them right in the middle of the top 10. All the while, Ricardo Rico's now in the top 10 with a score of 48. He's just on the cusp of breaking into the top half, I'd say, of the scoring metric, I guess. It's a 0 to 100 scale. But also, now Marone dropped 3 positions now underneath Blas Diaz. That is, I think, a pretty big swing. He lost, I want to say, about 8 points in this scoring system for power rankings. So Marone really dropped back after VIR a couple of weeks ago. Blas Diaz kind of held station along with so many others. And then you see that swap at the very top.
I mean, it doesn't say exactly what's going to happen with the race. Not
Certainly
perfectly.
Not. Certainly
but
not.
It gives a solid idea of what we could see here today. Will we see the championship change hands? Maybe. Is it a guarantee? No, but it's something to keep your eye on today as we get ready for this heat.
Certainly a lot to watch as the evening goes on, and it's good to still see a couple of these Pro-Am drivers in the top 10 in power rankings overall. But I gotta say, the pro guys are starting to do a good job of locking them out, getting the good results in, and starting to get a little more consistent maybe than those Pro-Am drivers as the season wears on. But as we get ready to go racing this evening from Road America, first, a quick look at the Whiplash SimCam's race details. It's a 20-minute sprint coming up first, a 40-minute feature in just a little while after an 8-car invert. That's overall, not per class, 8-car invert on the results. That could, tonight, not include a Pro-Am driver, depending on how things go. But you know what? There was a point in time, I believe it was December of 2023, Blue, where this league started 56 cars here at Road America. Granted, it was the season opener. Can you guess how many of them crashed in turn number 3?
Say 10.
Oh, you are so sorely mistaken.
Oh.
In a 56 car field, we crashed 48 cars. It is, to this day, I think the most anomalous anomaly I've ever seen in North American Racing League competition. 48 cars were involved in the crash. Obviously, not all 48 were out of the race at that point in time, but 48 were involved in the crash, and I've just never seen anything quite like it ever since. That said, cars are rolling off of the grid and down through turns 1, 2, and 3. I like the request not to jinx it. Look, we only have 30 here tonight. I don't think we're going to wind up 48 in that case. So we've got to be doing at least a little bit better. Let's take a look, though, at the starting grid brought to you by ATVO here this evening. On pole, Victor Veloso in his Mercedes AMG out of Brazil. Roman Pascucci out of position number 2 out of Argentina in an Aston Martin. Back in row number 2, how about Nicolas Mateo and Tito Filippa, both in Aston Martins, though out of Spain and Argentina, respectively. And back in row 3, Ricardo Rico out of Spain, Juan Blanat out of Argentina. Back to row number 4, you'll find Marco Saavedra from Argentina and Ralph Benitez from Brazil. That's the end of the existing invert spots at the start of this race. Back to 9th and 10th, Nicolas Rubelar out of Chile and Jackson Resende out of Brazil. 11th spot, NARL Marone out of Argentina, Daniel Antunes out of Spain in 12th. That's a Pro-Am alongside a Pro. It's also your Pro-Am pole sitter in that 11th position. A little farther back, 13th, 14th, Miguel Colon, Jacob Stofko out of Puerto Rico and Canada. Row number 8, Joaquin Melo. We haven't seen his name in a couple of rounds, I don't believe, but he's back this evening out of Argentina alongside fellow Argentinian, there we go, Blas Diaz. And in row number 9, William Oro Silva out of Brazil alongside Nick DePaula out of Brazil as well. Row number 10, Diego Eda in the McLaren. We've got a McLaren on the racetrack this evening alongside Hector Alvarez in a Lamborghini. Row number 11, Lucas Souza alongside Angel Ledesma out of the U.S. and Puerto Rico. Back to row number 12, Chris Winstone and Romain Rateau. That is your 12th row of 15. A few more rapid fire. Icaro Piccolo from Brazil, Ricardo Delgado from Puerto Rico, Andy Miller from the U.S., Jose Correa from Puerto Rico, and finally Scott Kimbrough and Jose Ramirez out of U.S. and Puerto Rico, respectively. I'm excited. I gotta say, I don't think I'm a big fan of this racetrack, at least driving it. But admittedly, Blue, it has given us some great races in the past, and I think we're about to witness another one here tonight.
Now, I've only watched one race here. I haven't raced one myself. But the one race I did watch, it was good. I believe it was a multi-class race. It was a multi-class endurance race. It was a lot of fun to watch. It was a lot of fun. I'm hoping to see something similar tonight. Though this is multi-class, it's all GT3s though. Pro-Am, Pro, I mean, yeah. But we'll see what we have tonight. We'll see what we have. I'm expecting a good one.
I will. I think this is going to be a good race. These guys always do really, really well here at this racetrack. And here we go, the final time through Bill Mitchell Bend. As a cohesive field before we go racing in the sprint here this evening, we'll turn the engines down, turn the music down, and turn the engines up. As here we go, Victor Veloso going to lead us to the green here this evening, up the hill on the very front straightaway here from turn 14 up to turn number 1. This is, as Miley Cyrus put it once, the climb, and it's the climb to the green flag. Victor Veloso, Roman Pascucci, Nicholas Matteo, Dino Filippa. Green flag, round 7 of 8 at Road America. Some big moves into the first corner. You watched them all straight on there. That was a really cool vantage point to just witness what these guys were doing into that first turn. But now things are shaking up. A second right-hander in a row. And now these guys all need to be perfect and draft down to turn 5. The first big passing opportunity as Antunes. Antunes is in trouble back in turn 3.
Everyone's still really close together, really tight. We got a lot
that's
of
not going to work. Side by side here. Massive incident. Maybe in turn 5. It was a massive hit for sure. The incident was actually negated by all the gravel there. All the runoff helped these guys big time. They're not done.
Oh, they're not done yet. This is a really aggressive start to the race so far. They want it. They all want it.
Ricardo Rico gives some bully there back to Roman Pascucci. Pascucci off in the dirt. I think we're going to see some penalties here this evening, particularly in that pro class.
And looking at it, I saw some of that happening down into turn 5. I think we're going to see... Yeah, I think we're seeing a penalty for that. That didn't look very nice. It didn't look very sportsmanlike.
Turn 9 now. Winstone, Ledesma, Era all off the racetrack, it seems. Winstone getting back on. Problems through and through. Here we go, though. Canada corner. My favorite corner on the racetrack somehow, and Nicholas Matteo is putting the pressure heavily on Victor Veloso. Final corner of lap number 1, the climb back up to the start-finish line, and Miguel Colon, Noel Marone, that's your top 2 in Pro-Am, but these two are top 2 in Pro. That's the battle. I want to watch one more lap here because these guys are still so close right now. In fact, here you go. Dino Filippa and Nicholas Rubel are down the front stretch. Very, very close.
Giving a little bit of a flash. Wasn't too happy with something there, I'm assuming. Or just trying to say hello, maybe.
You know, I don't think any two flashes ever have the exact same meaning in quick succession. Unless you hit somebody, then maybe you'll hit maybe 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 spams of the flashers, but otherwise, it could mean a whole lot of things. Here we go, turn 5, Matteo up the inside, battle for the race lead, and Matteo will just clear Veloso. Victor definitely let him go right there, though. That was cutting him a break.
Almost looked like he was going to turn through turn 5, but thankfully he withheld himself. He knew it wasn't a great idea. He knew he could come back here.
Another one. Joaquin Melo, turn 5, and Nick DePaula seems to potentially have been involved. He is getting back into a groove of things. Very chaotic first couple of laps here at Road America. Again, I'm going to let this lap go through. Everybody's just still so close. I want to let this lap play out before we go back and get replays. On board, Victor Veloso now second place after leading lap number 1. Nicholas Matteo up ahead. This could be a big passing opportunity to get that lead back here on lap number 2. At the same time, if you've been given this opportunity to draft blue, I feel like that might be a little more advantageous right now than leading and bearing the brunt of all that air resistance.
You would think so. I mean, it's a 20-minute race. There is going to be a pit stop here. I think it would just be better to try to take the lead and run away with it.
Well, okay, yeah, so fuel saving out the window. That's a fair point. But even the draft on the last lap, you're going to want to have that in your tool bag. The problem really then becomes, can you get away from the cars behind you so that you have separation to truly use that draft without being passed from behind? So these guys stay in lockstep formation. Let's go back. We've got a lot, I think, to talk about in that opening lap. So let's go back and get to it. This is turn 3. It was all fair and square here, except for Antunes in the 3. He was out in the dirt. This is turn 1, down to turn 3. Antunes, the white, gray, and green Ford on the outside. He just caught grass on his own, got into Noah Marone, and I mean, that's just his own driver error right there.
Yeah, nothing dirty about that. It looked like it looked clean as far as incidents go. Just some mistakes happen. You look at how tight everyone here is.
This is where things get a little more interesting. It's actually the car, wow, behind Roman Pascucci. I'm trying to get... That was Dino. That was Dino Filippo that was involved in that with Ricardo Rico. That is not who I expected out of all of this. It's a bunch of pink Aston Martins. It's hard to pick them apart when it's happening live. But this is Dino Filippo door banging with Ricardo Rico to turn 5. I don't know who starts it, who hits who initially. Dino kind of gets into Ricardo first, and they did not appreciate any bit of that. And there they take out Pascucci, push him off the racetrack. That... I'm surprised we haven't seen penalties yet, but honestly, stewards might still be deliberating. And then Dino feeds him a bumper there in turn 6, big time. Ricardo gets back into him. No, that was Pascucci hitting Rico. That wasn't even Dino.
We got some drama already today. It was 2 minutes into the race, and we got drama.
Not even 2 minutes, maybe 45 seconds before we had a bit of championship drama here. And then, look at that. Oh, cars off the racetrack, and Pascucci got a part of it. So that dream run for him quickly came to a halt. And there was more, certainly, to take in right there. I believe Diego Era was involved. So let's find him in the replay. He's just ahead of Pascucci. And look at that. That's Nick DePaula into the back end of, I think, William Oro Silva. And then Era was over on the right side and got into Ledesma. Ledesma came back across. Delgado got a piece. I see Winstone spinning around. Wow.
You know, I could start to see the 40-something cars spinning at turn 3 or then the first lap. I can see it now. I can see it.
Here's the look for Chris Winstone. He was just caught in the middle of this. Very unfairly to him, for sure.
Without a doubt, that's tragic, if you ask me. And getting caught by something else there is just hurts.
I just want to go back. We saw Roman Pascucci get shoved off. I just want to take a replay of this. He slammed Ricardo Rico at turn 6. This has looked a lot more like a NASCAR race than a GT3 race, and then Ricardo fed it right back there at turn 7.
I was just about to say that. This looks like your main area of expertise. That looks like a NASCAR race to me.
Now, I want to watch
If you ask-
Pascucci here through these couple of corners. I just want to see if anything else happened before we get back to live picture. That's right, he got sent off there in that incident. So yeah, that was a very dramatic way to open the race up for sure. Blas Diaz was involved in something here on the start. That's the only thing we're missing to this puzzle right now. Question is, did he even make the start? I don't think so. I mean, these guys are only, what, in turn 1 at this point in the replay? Yeah, I think Blas had a problem on the start. Let's get back to live picture, though. Already a lot of time rolling off the clock, but I think that's all very necessary context. And now look at this. Veloso is down to 5th live. He's got no front bumper. I hate to do it to everybody, but I mean, these are the pros we're talking about.
Replay.
Yes, we need to at least go back a little bit and see if we can find at least the incident that the bumper flew off from. That will also likely tell us how he lost the lead in the first place. Here it is, turn 6. Nicholas Mateo on the outside. Turn 7, now he's on the inside. That puts Veloso on the outside. There's the contact through turn 7. That somehow shears the front bumper off, and I think you can connect the dots as to how Victor Veloso has lost so many spots now after being on pole here this evening. He's down in 5th. And so, there's your race leader, Nicholas Mateo. Back to live picture. I promised we'd get there. Down in Pro-Am, there's a pretty interesting fight as Miguel Colon leads. He's got Jackson Rosende in 2nd, and Jacob Stofko 3rd with Noel Marone in well, okay. Rosende's not 2nd. Rosende's 2nd in line. He's 8th, of course, in Pro. I'm getting a little ahead of myself here. That puts Miguel in 8th overall, Jackson 9th overall, Jacob Stofko 10th overall, and Noel Marone in 3rd overall. If that... I'm getting ahead of myself again. Stofko is 10th, Noel is 11th. There we go. It's just one of those things.
Third in Pro-Am. There you go.
There you go. That's a good way to look at it. Ralph Benitez, 6th position. He's got some pull here on Veloso. We, of course, saw the impact side to side with he and one of the SDR cars. Here's a run. Benitez will take that spot away. I mean, hardly any contest. Victor's feeling the brunt of all that front-end damage. And now Nicholas Rubelar, you know, I haven't really known how to approach this conversation. We talked about it pre-race, pre-broadcast. I think it's relatively known that Drago Racing folded between VIR and this evening here at Road America. I don't know if there's a confirmation as to exactly why. There have been some reasons floating around, but regardless, they folded, and that has put a couple of drivers here this evening without a team or on a new team. In this case, Nicholas Rubelar now is racing for Team NARL here this evening, and I wonder if that has anything to do with the fact that he is 7th currently and not a little higher up. He's won 5 races this season. That leads the series, so you would typically think, oh, well, he must be the driver to beat this evening, right? Well, no, not quite. He's 7th right now. I doubt it's to play the invert. He would start 2nd in the feature currently, but I really highly doubt that it's to play the invert.
I doubt it too, but at the same time, the invert is a very important part of, I mean, obviously a very important part of the 40-minute race that's coming up here. It could be. It could be at the same time, though, due to maybe a lack of practice switching teams, just potentially. That is something that could lead up to it, though I feel like I personally tend to practice on my own, whether my team is or not. But it could not be the case. Who knows?
Rubelar has taken that 6th spot away from Victor Veloso, and I was looking at timing and scoring. Blas Diaz headed back on the racetrack, so he is here. I don't know what has happened to Blas today, but I mean, you see the result, right? He's down in 28th, which is 17th in class. This is a pretty big deal for somebody that we're looking at as a potential championship favorite and top Pro-Am driver right now in power rankings. This is really unfortunate to see for his sake. Obviously, we know we have the 2 races tonight, just like always, so that will help him at least have a second chance, I guess, but it still ruins this first chance in the sprint race. Mateo fastest so far. That was lap number 6 around the circuit. We're expecting about 10, which makes sense. If we have about 2-minute laps and 20 minutes, that does round out to about 10 laps, give or take.
Just about. It could be closer to 9, but barely.
Look at this weave. I would expect a little bit less of this, actually, in the feature race at first. Maybe a little more as the race goes on. And of course, I was mentioning that the draft might be helpful right now to be second in line, or maybe even third, as opposed to first. But you actually want to be second in line in that feature race. You're not saving fuel right now in the sprint, so it would actually pay more dividends to be second or third in the feature a little bit, because you can save fuel, try to make the pass in the pit lane. Right now, you definitely want to be ahead, so you want to break that draft and try to keep those guys behind you. I don't know how well that's going to work, but time will tell. Now, down in Pro-Am, there's actually been a very significant change. Jackson Resende has passed Miguel Colon. That puts Miguel Colon directly in the crosshairs of Jacob Stofko, Noel Marone, and Hector Alvarez. Although Hector is 4 seconds back of these drivers. So it's really a top 3 fight in Pro-Am. Regardless, it puts Miguel on the hot seat with less than 6 minutes to go now. We could be talking about a first-time win, maybe, for Jacob Stofko very, very soon.
Stofko's a very, very strong driver. He would deserve this win if he could get it here, though. He has to get it. And I think his first big chance here is coming down into turn 1.
We've been watching Jacob recently, and I think admiring his recent gains in performance and result. This could be a really cool way to kind of cap off the season for him before it's too late, right? Before the season's over. Get a win in one of the final couple of rounds. Even if it is just a sprint race win, that could be huge for Jacob and his confidence and overall, I guess, marketability, right? I mean, these guys could be shipping around for different teams before the Porsche Cup season coming up this summer. So if Stofko maybe isn't, I don't know what his situation is with his team, but if he maybe is looking for something here soon, a win could make a very big difference right here.
So it may be a little bit difficult because all of these 5 you see on your screen here, well, 4 of these 5, I should say, have the slipstream. So it's going to be a little bit difficult for Stofko to get the pass, but not impossible just yet.
I love these drone perspectives around this race course. It'll be about 2 laps to go when we get back to the stripe. And honestly, I feel like 20 minutes in a race is just short enough where you never can settle into a rhythm. 40 minutes is getting closer to being able to be called maybe an endurance round for a single driver series like this. As here we go, battle between Veloso and Resende. Miguel Colon trying to go through. Resende has the outside, Kano the corner right here. Veloso down inside. Nearly contact off the corner. I guess the point is 40 is starting to get kind of long. 20 is pretty short. I think it keeps these guys on their toes all night long. Oh, Colon!
Oh, there it is!
Jackson Resende sent straight off the racetrack, turn 14 right there. We just saw it live. Let's get another look at it in a moment as drivers come up to pass him from farther back. Ricardo Rico, one of them. Let's see, the onboard from Miguel Colon will tell the story. He was on the inside and kind of missed turn 14. Just got out a little too wide.
Just a little bit too wide, but a little bit too wide is the difference between spinning someone and not spinning someone.
I really do wonder if that might be a penalty. Colon has lost the lead, by the way. Jacob Stofko has gone by, so already it's a bit of a penalty. It's jumbled the field up, but it's moved him back a spot. That is significant, especially in this points fight. And Stofko defensive to turn 5, locking down that position. Defensive to 6.
And he's got a really good way to box him in here. with Veloso in front of him. He could just keep on boxing Cologne in. I mean, wonderful position to be in for Stofko.
Good stuff back here in the Pro-Am lead. How about the Pro lead? Nicholas Mateo still holding things down. That's through the kink. Blainat second, Saavedra third, Filippa in fourth. This is a big opportunity for Juan Blainat to try and start to put this season on ice. He comes into this race with a 1-point advantage over Ralph Benitez. Benitez is down in fifth. That would, quadruple, quintuple, sextuple the advantage that he's got just in this race alone. But let's wait. Well, let's pump the brakes a little bit. The invert, of course, will flip this field back on its head. So this would certainly be a big advantage for Blainat to grab over Benitez. But there's a lot of racing left to go tonight. Also, Jackson Resende in that fight. He was the one just sent off the race course a couple of minutes ago. He is now down in 13th as we get the white flag brought to you by Whiplash Simcams. And there you see Ralph Benitez doing some blocking down the front stretch, defending that spot in fifth over Nicholas Rubelar. There's Stofko, Cologne, and Marone. Other battles in this race currently: Ricardo Rico, Jackson Resende, that is for 12th overall. A little farther back, Nick DePaula, Jose Correa, Andy Ray Miller, Joaquin Melo in the Pro-Am category. That's about 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th in class, which puts them 20th through 23rd overall. This could be fun. Final corner. We've seen the pros get feisty tonight. This is turn 5, though, in the sprint race. It shouldn't be too crazy. Side by side, though, Resende will have to hold behind. Up to the race leaders. There's Mateo. There's Blainat. Can he get there, Blue?
Gonna depend on this carousel here. Can they both hit it? Is one gonna mess up? We'll find out. A little bit slow out there for Blainat, just barely though. Very tiny difference.
He's just not gaining time right now. I think he's going to have to accept the second place. With all the beating and banging, door slamming there at the beginning of the race, I got to wonder, does Juan have any damage in all of that? Could he have been hit? And could that be slowing that number 89 car down? It's certainly a possibility. Still a lot of great battles.
I don't see any.
So a lot of great battles coming to the stripe. Final corner, though, Nicholas Mateo. It's going to be a walk-off victory in the sprint race for Nicholas here. Checkered flag, car number 5. That is a win in the bag for Nicholas once again. And here we get to see the fights to the line. Nothing there between Benitez and Rubelar, but for the Pro-Am victory, here they are to the line. Stofko will win it. Miguel Colon second, now Almiron third, and that will put Stofko, by the way, on pole position for the feature here tonight. That's going to be a whole lot of pressure. Problems, though. Jose Correa out of the final corner. He's turned around, and he's going to drop to at least 24th position. Angel Ledesma here will come across 25th. Seems like a relatively poor sprint race result. Certainly not poor sprint race effort, but result for a 2-Pi racing team. As we've had a brief freeze here. And iRacing has crashed.
Oh.
So we will take a moment and flip back to B-roll. How about that? iRacing decided it didn't want to iRacing anymore. So give us a moment to sort some of that out. But Blue, that was a pretty solid sprint race, even if iRacing decided to crash there for a moment. We'll get it fixed, get back in the session as quickly as possible. But that was a pretty solid opening to the evening.
I mean, wonderful start. Wonderful start. I always love seeing these heat races because it shows everything that these drivers can do. And then we get going into the feature race, this longer 40-minute race. and it's a little bit slower, but it's kind of nice because we got all this going on at the start, and then we get to bring it back just a little bit, reel it back, and take a deep breath, and kind of almost reset in a way.
Well, a solid start here to the evening. Sorry, I'm taking a moment to work out a couple of things in the background, but no, that was a really solid race, and that definitely is going to set up for an even more interesting feature event this evening. I do want to take a look briefly at what's upcoming for us here at Pit Stop TV. The next few broadcasts, here they are. It's a lot of oval racing the next few shows, but trust me, you'll want to pay attention to these, give these a view or two. Friday evening, the Steering Wheel Nation Truck Series with Chris Winstone as a driver in that series, taking to Charlotte Motor Speedway this Friday evening, May the 8th. Keep an eye on that. I believe the length of the race will be 124 laps, so a little bit shorter on the oval side. I think certainly easier to take in as opposed to being one of these big 4-hour events. Then Saturday will be a bit of a longer event because we're doing 3 races in one. We've got Legends on track for the Whiplash Racing League as a part of the All-American Racing Network charity event this Saturday evening in support of breast cancer awareness. And then Monday evening, we get the NORL Retro Cup Series back out at Dover Motor Speedway. That'll be their 13th race of the season as they get into their true mid-season swing. So a lot going on here, a lot of places to watch. Pit Stop TV all across the platforms there listed at the bottom of your screen. Now, Blue, I mentioned earlier when I grabbed my energy drink for the evening that I would mention it on air, and since we're taking this moment to load back into the sim so we can get back in for the feature race, I can talk about it. You like to bring up a lot of Formula One stuff, and that's not a problem at all. I think it fits very well in here, and even Jordan White out in the YouTube chat was talking about Formula One a little bit ago. Well, I actually am quite fond of this new Lando Norris Monster.
You gotta tell me how it is.
I typically am a Rockstar guy, admittedly, but to keep me in tip-top, that's not, you should not drink as much caffeine as I drink, but to keep me, I guess, alert for the whole broadcast, I do quite like this Lando Norris Monster. I'm curious if anybody out there watching this evening has tried it. What do you think of it? There's a lot of energy drink flavors coming out all at once here in the next couple of weeks as we get into summer, but let's also talk about, because we also talked about with Formula One, I guess, as a segue, we talked about V10s in racing, for example. We have a couple here in GT3. Of course, the Audi and Lamborghini power plants are V10s.
And here's my thing when it comes to these engines and stuff, and I love them. Engines are wonderful. I mean, we got V10s, we got V8s, V6s. I mean, they sound wonderful so often. But something I do want to bring up while we're looking at this is I wonder if this is going to change soon. As I mentioned to you, by where I live, all new manufactured road cars have to be electric. If you don't know, and for anyone who doesn't know how GT3 is figured out, it's just a modified road car. Heavily modified, yes. But obviously, like examples as with like the Porsche GT3, you can buy that. Just go over to the dealership and buy it, you know. So I almost wonder how long these V10s, V8s are sticking around for.
Yeah, we had a conversation. I forget if it was, I think it was in the AM race last week. But we had a bit of conversation specifically about this because these GT3 cars, you see the specs all across the board, and the big part, the fact that it was developed as a class back in 2005 by SRO and FIA, and it's now used across the board, and not just in FIA racing, but also IMSA, SRO, DTM now as of the last handful of years, and other series just across the world. It is a very global form of motorsport, and honestly, it puts on some of the best racing. I think Hypercar right now is in a very golden age, and I think tops GT3 currently. Hypercar, GTP, whatever, I think it tops GT3 for the moment, but I think GT3 is also pretty darn sustainable and will eventually be evolving to kind of adapt some of these other hybrid and just different forms of power to the wheels, and it's worth thinking about. I don't know that we're in for a regulation change anytime in the next, very near future, but I think it's certainly worth thinking about. Will these manufacturers be pushed to find alternate forms of power? How will they be pushed to find alternate forms of power? And ultimately, what effect is that going to have on the racing? It's a very polarizing conversation, but the fact of the matter is these manufacturers kind of make these motorsport series happen. Without them, they simply wouldn't. And thus, the innovation of power plants and new ways to create that power, it's just part of life. It's part of it.
And that's something people are going to have to get with. And, we all started this before. We were kind of on separate sides of this because, you said you really like the V10s. I actually do like these energy-driven cars. And obviously, using Formula One as an example, I don't mind them. I like them. I enjoy watching them. People say, the engine sounds. I like them. But only time will tell what will happen here with the GT3 class, what will happen with the hypercar class. Maybe we'll even see some changes to the LMP2s. Who knows?
LMP2 is a class that certainly could use some reinvigoration. I think that would be cool to see, something a little bit different there. But we are on the way back into the session. I think we may be very close on green flag, admittedly. Maybe even on the late side of it. So apologies there. Unfortunately, when iRacing crashes, that's just how it works. But we are about to get back in. This is going to be very rapid fire. I want to warn everybody now. When we start loading in, this is all going to happen very, very quickly. So, obviously things are a little bit different. Not quite going to plan. But if you still have enjoyed any North American Racing League broadcasts, and if you want to continue to enjoy them, a big thank you to our partners with the series, of course, Muradness, JS Consulting, Screw Compressor Service Incorporated, and Rocket Designs helping us out to make these events happen. We're going on 5 years now, partnered up as a league. So, as a league and broadcaster. So, I mean, this has been one of the most successful groupings, pairings we've ever had here at Pit Stop TV. Honestly, I want to get to the point where we see 10 years go by, 15 years, 20 years go by. If Scott Reiser's willing to host it, I'm willing to broadcast it, frankly. That's how that works. We've got cars. I'm letting paints and stuff load, and I mean, iRacing, it's a bit of a resource hog, of course, so I'm letting it kind of get through its frame rates here for a second, but I think we're just about there to get back into iRacing proper. So let's go ahead and do so and take a look at your starting grid here for this evening's feature race. On pole, I see a little preview there, I suppose. On pole, of course, we mentioned Jacob Stofko winning the Pro-Am race, just getting into the top 8. He will lead us to the green here this evening in our feature event for 40 minutes of racing. Victor Veloso over his left shoulder. Back in row number 2, how about Nicholas Rubelar and Ralph Benitez? A little farther back, Dino Filippa and Marcos Saavedra, and this, of course, flips everything that we saw in that winning fight between Mateo and those SDR cars, including one Blanat. They will start now 7th and 8th, Blaine at 7th, Mateo 8th. Back in 9th and 10th, Miguel Colon and Noel Moron. They were just a little too far back. Couldn't quite get that Pro-Am win. They are now starting 7 spots, I guess. It'll be 4 rows, however you want to look at it, behind their Pro-Am competition in Jacob Stofka. It's a big deal. A little farther back, row number 6. How about Hector Alvarez, Ricardo Rico, followed by Jackson Rosende and Lucas Souza, and then Daniel Antunes and Romain Ratzo in, I believe, the single Porsche in the field. Roman Pascucci there in 17th spot, Ricardo Delgado from 18th in a Corvette. How about Icaro Piccolo and Nick DePaula, both out of Brazil in row number 10. A little farther back, Joaquin Mello, Andy Ray Miller, Jose Ramirez, Jose Correa, Angel Ledesma, William Oro Silva, Chris Winstone, Blas Diaz, and then finally Diego Era and Scott Kimbrough. It looks like Kimbrough is not in the car currently, might be starting from the pit lane. And as we get ready to go racing for our feature event in the penultimate round of GT3 season number 9 for the pro drivers, let's all wish Scott Racer to get well soon. He, of course, had a surgery a couple of weeks ago, as he's been very open about, and is on the mend, should be back in a virtual car soon, but definitely has to rest up, make sure he's at 100% for that Porsche Cup season coming up later this year, just about a month and a half away And we've got Porsche Cups opening up at Hockenheimring in late June. Should be a lot of fun. That said, 40 minutes on the clock. I'm sorry. Well, here we go. Up the hill. Jacob Stofko, that's your pole sitter. I'm very excited to see how this is going to go behind the pace car up the hill, Road America. That safety car will leave to the relative safety of pit lane. We'll turn the music down and take a deep breath. You're going to need it. You'll be holding it all the way to turn 1. Green flag in the feature race at Road America. Stofko at least is clear still to 1. That's going to help calm some of the nerves. Mostly single file in the top 10, first side by side, Buena and Mateo. Mateo with a big move in turn 3. They're starting to get things figured out. A couple of cars slow. Lucas Souza, one of them. And it looks like the other will be Nick DePaula. The rest of the field continues on. Stofko's got pressure here at turn 5. And here comes the number 10, Victor Veloso, to the inside.
Here we're going to see the pace difference between a Pro-Am and a Pro. This contact is a bit further back in the field. I think I saw something back in turn 3. Veloso clears himself out of Stofko.
Again, we'll go back and look at this after a lap or two if we need to. We might. As here we go, big move from Ricardo Rico. That was a lot in the background as well with Chris Winstone and some others. And one car's off. This is Juan Blanat, championship leader coming into tonight. He's just been punted off the racing course. He's down in 16th.
Bit of contact there coming through the carousel. No. Nothing too insane, a bit of flashing. You see there. Not happy about that. Not happy about being moved out of the way like that.
Up in the lead, Stofko has lost that lead. Veloso on through. But Stofko's still got about 7 spots back to Marone, so he's still in good company. Especially if he just sits in line, drafts you, doesn't make any mistakes. Lap 1 will complete this time by Dino Filippa in a much better spot. Doesn't have a whole lot of damage. He's 5th. He's at the end of this train. He may have some of the highest potential here as lap 1 wraps up. Riding on board still, Dino Filippa out of turn number 3. And we've got some more jumbling back in the field. How about Jackson Rosende down to 15th spot? Roman Pascucci in 16th. Icaro Piccolo in 17th. Here's an onboard. This could be exciting. Juan Blanat back in 16th spot, battling with Roman Pascucci. Pascucci's a teammate and has gone by Blanat, the championship leader coming into this evening. Off the racetrack there goes Jackson Rosende as Piccolo will go defensive now to turn 8. Contact! Oh my goodness! Pascucci just wiped out Jackson Rosende.
Now, I've already forgotten, was Rosende the one who punched Pascucci off?
That was Ricardo Rico in contact with Dino Filippa on lap 1 of the sprint race. I'm not sure what was going on there for that kind of move to put Rosende off the racetrack. That's going to be significant. Pascucci now down in 21st, up the road a little bit. A lot of Pro-Ams are fighting here in the midfield. And your pros are still pretty close. Here's the meat and potatoes of them. That does give Blanat a couple of extra spots. He's now got 3 Pro-Ams directly up the road. So as lap 2 goes complete here in the feature race, here's Rubilar on Stofko down the front stretch. Position gained. Stofko gives it up.
I think Stofko's seeing the pace difference here. So I think it's happening.
a little farther back. This is back to lap number 1. I want to see some of what happened there. Of course, Nick DePaula had problems out of turn 3. This is the tail end of that incident. I think the next big problem included the 29 of Windstone, but I could be mistaken. Here he is racing. I believe that's Diego Herrera right behind. We'll actually watch from the blimp, so we'll be able to see if anything goes wrong a little farther up here in turns 6, 7, 8, 9. And then shortly after this, we have a couple of pro incidents as well. So just to kind of take a quick review of what happened lap 1, there's a checkup through 7, and that ultimately puts Windstone in the barriers. And who was that Mustang that got away? That was William Oro Silva that was able to pull away from that. I don't know whose fault it may have been in that corner. You see the side-by-side ahead. That is the 23 of Pascucci. Of course, he started deep in the field, so he's slicing and dicing through the Pro-Ams here on lap 1. So you can see just how much he's gone through the first couple of laps. And Chris Windstone wondering what he's got to do to just not be in an incident. There you see Blas Diaz got in the back of one of the 2 Pi cars, and they just simply stacked up.
Just not seeing the checkup coming in a little late and putting someone around at least.
But then here's really the championship leader, lap 1, Juan Blanat. Pascucci kind of bullies Ricardo Delgado off the racetrack there to get that spot. And so there's Blanat, kind of midfield at this point. I think we should get some answers here quickly. Obviously, we saw the incident a little bit later on. If we got to skip ahead, we can. I think the big answer here is this has just been a very dramatic start to the evening, and Victor Veloso is somehow right back out front.
I mean, we saw Veloso putting in the work in qualifying. I don't see why he can't put in the work in the race here. Lined up really, really well for the sprint race, even though, you know, back down into 7th. But 7th just happens to put him 2nd up here in the feature, and I think that's just going to be how it goes for Veloso. But we still have 32 minutes in the race, so maybe a little ahead of myself.
And this race, of course, is going to feature that pit stop that we didn't see in the sprint, as Andy Ray Miller has just had a problem in the number 9. That's a teammate to Chris Windstone. These two have had the absolute worst luck this season. Here's turn 5. Andy got in deep and then just got hit. I mean, it seems like he just got run over. Yeah. So he's racing the 75. That's Ramirez, Josue Ramirez, in the Lamborghini. And admittedly, Andy goes deep here, really, really deep on the brakes. Josue tries to cross up, but just hits his left rear. And look,
drives right through him.
Yeah, I'm all for, you know, these battles and moves and being dramatic, but I think one fact remains: you still just can't hit cars willy-nilly.
No, absolutely not. And as much as I am for, yes, go wreck, guys, go wreck. Even in real life, as long as, you know, everyone's okay after the incident in real life, I don't want any injuries coming out of it. It still can suck sometimes seeing, you know, something that shouldn't have happened, like, for example, that incident there, still happened.
I think what we're seeing a lot in motorsports is a lot of drivers these days, whether it's sim or real or whatever, they just have this sense of urgency that just isn't always required of them. And it's like, we have to go now, we have to make this pass now. And I mean, I get it to a point from a competition aspect, but sometimes it'll be faster if you just wait one more corner. In that case, of course, Josue was just trying to get back around Andy Miller, who did overcook the corner a bit. Just pedal the car for a second. You can still get alongside of him, have the apex in turn 6 and get away. I think it's just kind of an unwillingness to lift for people. And we saw this actually on Monday night in the NORL Retro Cup Series race. The only few incidents they had in that 300 lapper at Charlotte were really just guys just simply not wanting to lift and not wanting to wait at all and take a moment. And obviously that is a true endurance race, Blue. That's 450 miles at one of NASCAR's fastest intermediate ovals. in a classic, not classic, but retro at least, 2003 NASCAR Cup car. A lot of power, a lot of speed. This is a 40-minute GT3 race. It's very hard to compare the two. But even in a 40-minute GT3 race, you do need to give and take. We're still in the opening 10. I think you could pedal there for a second, get him back in another moment or two.
I mean, I can't disagree. Here we go.
I'm noticing this gap up front. Veloso and Rubilar is starting to tighten up a little bit. You see the gap behind. Rubilar is clear of that draft from the cars behind. Instead, he is right in the draft of Veloso. So, Blue, as we go on in this race, of course, we keep talking fuel savings and such. How much is Nicholas doing behind the wheel potentially to save that fuel?
I mean, let's give a listen here. Let's give a little look. Maybe a little bit of a lift there. I mean, how does the slipstream down the straight? The slipstream alone is going to give just the teeniest amount of fuel, but the teeniest amount of fuel eventually turns into a lot of fuel, and that's eventually a lap that you save. The trick here when trying to figure out how much a car is saving is you gotta listen. Let's listen coming down the straight here.
He did coast there.
Big lift.
Yeah, you can kind of hear the engine just kind of, it's that high-pitched wah, and it just kind of falls flat for a second. That's him coming off the gas. It's like a wah, before he really gets on the brakes. So if you're a casual, or maybe you're new to sim racing or racing in general, if you don't, even right there, if you heard it under my voice, that just kind of falling flat. It's not a sharp decline in RPMs either, so watching the RPMs is important. And that kind of just falling flat, it's the same as if you lift and coast in your road car. Obviously, there are some differences, much higher speeds, much higher RPMs and such, but it's relatively the same as if you're going down a hill maybe, right? And you recognize on this country road, you can lift and coast for a second, and frankly, gas prices are well in excess of $4 right now across the country. You maybe want to drive slightly more economically, so, hey, there's this hill coming up on this country road, let's lift. Let's not hit the gas and just kind of let the hill take us down. That's the kind of the same thing Nicholas is doing there. He's trying to lift a little bit earlier, not be in the power that little bit longer, so while yes, he's not accelerating for quite as long, he can also wait longer to actually mechanically decelerate. That natural deceleration conserves some fuel, and it keeps him... The math ends up working out, so he can still make the same or at least equivalent time on the racetrack while not burning that fuel for the extra, 100, 300 feet on the gas out of the corner, and then he just waits slightly later to brake.
It's a very important lesson to learn if you want to race like this, or really anywhere. I know people over in Oval do it, like somewhat often, though that usually involves the clutch when you're already off the throttle from what I understand.
It does.
And while these cars do have a clutch, it doesn't kick in at higher gears. In my experience, at least. It used to.
Sports car racing on iRacing, before iRacing patched out the ability to put the clutch in, whether it was a prototype or a sports car like this, that was a wild time. I don't know who was and was not around for that, but I've been on the sim since 2016 now. I'm actually hitting 10 years in 2 months, my goodness.
Oh, whoa.
Yeah. So I've seen many iterations of iRacing at this point, many builds. I guess 40 in June. I need to stop talking. Point being, at one point in time, it was a lawless hellscape of guys putting in the clutch to save fuel in GT3 cars and LMP2, and then iRacing eventually realized it got a lot more notoriety throughout the COVID pandemic, and a lot more pro teams went fully pro with corporate sponsorships and real manufacturers and real teams getting involved. Hey, this isn't quite realistic, and it's actually an unfair advantage in a way, because if you can master the sim technique, you're now doing what the real guys can't do and maybe wouldn't think to do initially when they make their switch over into iRacing. So they got rid of that, and these guys can no longer put the clutch in these style cars to save that gas. In NASCAR, it's a whole different world. It is that kind of lawless hellscape where you could be flying 100, 200 miles an hour into a 30-degree banked corner at Charlotte, put the clutch in halfway around the corner, and run the engine in the hundreds of RPMs versus the thousands.
And something I am noticing, as Mateo goes fastest there for this lap, Rubelar, if you look at the gap, has been getting time on Veloso. So the fuel saving is working, and Rubelar is still getting time with, I'm assuming, the slipstream here. If I was to just make a guess. It was down to 0.2 not too long ago.
Everything is different in this race. I wonder why, right? I mean, these guys realize it's 40 minutes, not 20. The real race only starts once they leave the pit lane. And then that final 15 minutes, sometimes even as low as 10 minutes, is honestly some of the most chaotic racing we see at some racetracks. At other racetracks like VIR, the last couple of weeks, it's a little bit more tame because it separates the field a bit more, you have fewer battles. But if the field stays together in any way, it's certainly going to be reorganized at a race like this, with so many guys saving so much fuel and so much drafting and such. But Blue, that's when the real race begins, and we've got to make very quick sense of it, try to find our nominees for the North American Racing League Driver of the Day, all that kind of stuff. So it happens quick, happens in a hurry from here to the end of the race, because this is when the pit window has opened, so we might see some stragglers start to hit the pits.
Maybe a few coming in here soon, though I don't think quite yet. I think we have a couple more laps till we get our first come in.
Yeah, conventionally these guys wait usually till about 20 to 15 minutes to go, and if the laps are going to be ending right around the even minute to go, I would guess the latest we see anybody pit is probably 14 minutes to go. Probably going to start about 18 minutes to go in the race. So 18, 16, 14 minutes to go, roughly. Of course, very roughly. I think are the points in time where we might see pit stops be the most common. But we might start to see this a little bit sooner. And actually, it seems like it's going to be on the odd number. I don't know how we manage that. So take that and shift it by one. I would say 19, 17, 15 minutes to go. Maybe even down to 13. We'll see.
A few on the 16, maybe a few on the 17, who knows?
Back on board, Marcos Saavedra here. Go ahead.
Honestly, that's what I've been trying to do every race. I've been trying to fit two specific numbers together one way or another as naturally as I can. I don't know if you've picked up on that yet.
I have. Watching from the drones here, watching 3rd, 4th, and 5th, Felipe, Saavedra, and Benitez. Am I crazy to think that we've maybe seen a little more hostility on the racetrack between certain teams and certain other teams, or maybe even one certain team that wears pink and just about every other pro team?
Maybe just a little, just maybe a little bit of evidence to support that.
I don't know the lore. I don't know the exact specifics here, but it just seems like maybe something might have happened in, I don't know, the last pro race or even anything that these guys do away from the league. Obviously, there's 7 days in a week, and these races occupy about 2 hours of one day. So I don't know what the number is, but it's certainly less than, well, it's probably around 1%. 1.3% of the week is taken up in this race. So there's a lot of other times for these guys and even other drivers on their teams to have other happenings, and this could be pure speculation. But I'm going to be honest with you, I think we saw the most pro-to-pro contact this evening that we've ever seen, especially at the beginning of the races. These guys know the expectation from Scott Reister. It's to not have that kind of contact, not have that kind of drama. This is meant to be a very clean racing league, and historically it always has been, but there will be outlier events like tonight where it just seems like there's a little more contact out on the racetrack. As here's Ricardo Rico into the pit lane in his number 51, now sporting those P1 Docs colors.
Going back to the contact real quick, I think a lot of it has to do that we only have 2 races left in the season, this being one of them. I think people are starting to fight for those last little scraps that they could get of points.
Resende also in the pit lane really quick, and then Lucas Souza also in, and Angela Desma. Go ahead.
And maybe there's been something in the Discord that I haven't seen, that you haven't seen potentially, or maybe something behind closed doors that none of us know about, besides the drivers themselves. It wouldn't surprise me. It would not surprise me.
There is always so much more to sim racing than you think. Every time you think you have sim racing lore figured out, that there's always another page around the corner. So, yeah, always another page, another chapter, something. There's just always more to the story. It's never simple, it feels like. But here we go, coming up on halfway. This will complete lap 10 here in a few moments. And will bring us to halfway in this evening's feature race. Of course, we'll keep an eye out here shortly for who we like for driver of the day. I mean, is there anybody that is standing out to you so far? I mean, we can even look at positions gained over the course of the race. That's the wrong one. Here we go. I mean, 2 for Dino and Marcos, 6 for Antunes. Of course, these are overall spots gained. I will say Blas Diaz is kind of standing out in Pro-Am. He's up 7 spots, so that is obviously a recovery drive for him. He's only up to 20th overall, though, so it might look a little better on paper than it truly is on the racetrack.
Yeah, I am a sucker for the underdog. I will admit, I love myself a good underdog story. And though he's only lost positions so far, the positions have all been to pro drivers. And he was on pole for starting this race. One of my picks might end up being Stofko here.
Great point. Yeah, great point. I'm overlooking him for sure because he's lost 6 spots overall in the race, but he's still leading by about 2 seconds in Pro-Am. And it certainly looks like he should be able to hold on to that. Here's Stofko. This is at a turn 5, actually exiting turn 5 now. By the way, Romain Rateau and Ricardo Delgado just pitted this lap. So we are starting to see more and more stops. I mentioned, 19, 17, 15, those minutes-ish is when we might see the busiest action on pit lane, probably closer to the 17 and 15. Regardless, Jacob Stofko, he has just been getting better and better. I've been trying to sing his praises every chance I get. I admittedly really don't know much about this guy. I just know that he has been turning out some really good results lately, and I like that. I like guys that just kind of come out of the unknown, because everybody's unknown, right, until suddenly they are known. This might be his time. He's kind of been waiting in the woodworks. Last few weeks, he's been getting better and better. This might be where Stofko could maybe sweep the evening in Pro-Am. I don't think he's got a shot for the championship. No, it's much too far back. But he can certainly still make some noise these final 2 rounds. And he's pitting. Along with Nicholas Rubelar and every other leader. This is actually much earlier than I expected. Everybody's coming in.
Everyone. Here we go. Well, no, this is a 17-minute mark. It's a 17-minute mark. This is about when you were expecting.
Yeah, I guess I just expected more guys to go an extra lap, but I think maybe the difference, it's a lot cooler, right? I mean, the track temp is up into the 80s now, but the ambient temp that's, getting pulled into the engine and used to create combustion is much cooler. 65 degrees in the air, clear skies. Of course, when we went to Mexico, yes, it was slightly cooler temperatures, I guess, maybe from Mexico, but we were at higher elevation. That apparently really helps with fuel mileage. Here, though, we're a little lower elevation, and you see the results still of all the fuel saving for Nicholas Rubelar. He easily walks out of the pit lane ahead of Victor Veloso. That is a big change. I will say, I don't know how much more advantageous or disadvantageous that may be here at this racetrack. Victor's right behind him. So Victor may still be close on fuel, but at the moment, he's got the draft now, roles reversed. He might be able to put a move here on Nicholas Rubelar by the end of the race. And if he times it right, maybe Nicholas can't fire back. But yeah, Mexico, we saw some really late pit stops. I think that was in part due to the elevation. We are not a mile high plus here at Road America. Much lower elevation. I don't know that off the top of my head. I would guess under 1,000 feet. So cooler temperatures. I know cooler air temperatures do make more power. More power is typically going to use a little more fuel. So yeah, we're seeing some drafting, but I think these guys, the conditions are slightly working against them versus working for them at Mexico a couple of months ago. Now, down in Pro-Am, things have changed slightly, mostly just in that Stofko has a smaller lead, and really nobody ahead of him. He is slightly close to Antunes still. You see the Team NARL car just ahead, but he's a little out of the draft right now. Here's the onboard, here's the delta, 1.15 seconds. I know it shows Mateo on the graphic, but it is tracking to Antunes, I promise. The gap behind Jacob, though, you see 1.3 seconds. It was tracking to Antunes at the line, now tracking to Marone. So that's the gap right now in Pro-Am, 1.2, 1.3 seconds. It's certainly lower between Stofko and Marone. The problem for Stofko, Marone has got help in the form of one Blainat, and you know, Blue, that Blainat wants to go forward as quickly as possible. He is going to be on the move.
I was always expecting a bit of a move coming into turn 1 there. He's looking like he might go for it. Thankfully not. That wouldn't have ended well, I predict.
On board then, Juan Blainat, championship leader coming into this evening. And you know what? One thing was true. We did at least have a dramatic race for one championship driver, as here we go. Position change at the race lead. Veloso just used turn 5 to get back by Nicholas Rubilar. I don't know if I like that, honestly. Unless he has some way that he can pull away from Rubilar, I think Nicholas has too great an opportunity to fire back at him.
I think that's what we're going to see. I think for a bit we're going to see a bit of position changing. It's the last 13 minutes here, so it's going to get a little wild.
So as we watch this race evolve and turn into something entirely new here in these final minutes, I think it's time. 13 minutes to go. Who do you have for at least one of your nominations for North American Racing League Driver of the Day?
I am going to steal last Stofko pick. I mean, really impressive so far today from Stofko. Might get the double win for Pro-Am down here. And I mean, starting pull here for the feature race, which is 8th overall in the sprint race, but held on to it for a decent chunk of time and is still holding on to the lead in his own class. I mean, I feel like that's a clear pick.
I agree. It is good to see just a feel-good story here in this series, especially when we've seen so many dramatic moments. Just something that feels good. Kind of makes you smile. Like, yeah, good for him. So Jacob Stofko having a good day here at Road America. Maybe on his way to sweeping the races for Pro-Am, but Noah Marone is certainly closing in. I'll keep it in Pro-Am competition. I'll keep it in the class as you see some battles here down the front stretch into turn 1. One of them is Blainat passing Noah Marone. And I think that's exactly where I'm going to go. We have not seen Marone on top of the scoring pylon quite the way we saw earlier in the season. These last couple of rounds, he's still been good, don't get me wrong. But this is kind of a return to it, you know, at least in class. Second place, keeping things in check, making sure he's not losing control of the Pro-Am championship fight. I think that's fair to say.
Absolutely. I mean, he clearly still has his pace. Lipa around.
We're going to look at this before we nominate our couple of pro drivers, but let's see what happened here. It's Zuzina Filippa in turns 5 and 6. Here's the initial moment. Mateo, big dive suddenly into turn 5, shoves him a door. That puts Filippa off the racetrack a little bit. He comes back over into Benitez, and then can I guess what happens here? On the outside, a little bit of contact, incidental, but Benitez gives a shot there to Filippa and spins him around. And now for the race lead, Canada corner. These are your top two in pro and overall. I gotta ask though, Blue, before we get too far into this, who you got as far as driver of the day in pro?
It's really close here in pro. And I've been really watching Veloso, who's had a wonderful run today, but I'm also really watching Rubilar here, and Rubilar's been putting on a wonderful race. I'm really trying to give it to Veloso. 0.3 back line coming down to the main straight, or coming down the main straight. Between these two, it's a toss-up today. I think just for pole and a wonderful run through this feature race here today, I think I'm going to go Veloso, which I know taking both leaders, yeah, but I think that those are my picks.
Don't worry, I'm going to stick with you here. I'm going to take Rubilar. I think just this run lately, especially him starting down at the back end of the pro field in the sprint, him then using this invert wisely to, as Jordan White says in the YouTube chat, play 4D chess a little bit. I mean, he has played the card tonight. He's not having drama. He's not getting involved in any of that. He's just running a good race. I do worry slightly about his result in the sprint, but you know what? When some guys might have to fall on a drop week this evening, he is having just another consistent result. Is it going to work out for the championship? I don't know. But it's certainly not going to hurt him.
We'll find out here soon.
He's managing the damage while some guys in this championship fight are having bad days, he's not. And he could still get this win. This could be a really good day by the end of it.
That's true. The race isn't over just yet. Still within the slipstream here, coming into turn 4 or 5 technically. Or sorry, no, wrong part of the circuit. Both look really similar to me. You can tell when I don't know a circuit.
That was my favorite corner on the racetrack.
You can tell when I don't know a circuit. You can really tell. I'll tell you that.
Problems here suddenly for Daniel Antunes. I'm trying to scramble to get back to it for the number 3 car. I want to see if this is connection issue or damage for the number 3. He is in Spain, and I mean, it's got to be wee hours of the morning, 2, 3 a.m. And we do sometimes see ISPs end up affecting drivers at that time of the night. Whether it's an endurance racing or racing like this, just international. Let's see if this is connection related or incident. He's still all safe. This is through 7, now turn 8. And yeah, time in Spain. I just Googled it over in the background, at least in Madrid, 3:21 a.m. That sounds like a ripe time as an ISP to make some necessary infrastructure changes. And you know what? Fair enough. It is. Middle of the night, it's their lowest time of usage. But man, it really sucks for these European drivers, although that is completely different.
Both, it seems. It seems like we have a little bit of both.
I think he may have alt F4'd. I think that was frustration. I think he got out of there. Oh! Antunes already in the YouTube chat. Wheel disconnected 2 times. So he must have hit the curbing and it jostled the wheel out of his hands. And he just couldn't control it, I'm assuming.
If we were to make a guess.
That is dramatic. I like drama. These drivers certainly won't. They're not going to be happy with the Chaos Bringer this evening, but here we go. 7 minutes to go. We're coming up on 4 laps to go. Veloso still leading. Rubilar second. Saavedra and Mateo just behind. Bladeout, of course, is down in 8th. I will say, proper comeback by him. To be put down the field, nearly 20th spot and suddenly be back up here in 8th spot. That is really solid from Juan Bladeout. So I don't know how this championship fight's going to look after tonight, Blue, but you got to give him some credit here. Juan has also managed the damage and is keeping things together more or less.
I mean, my picks aren't to put any driver down, but it is a wonderful drive from Bladeout thus far. Would be a contender for driver of the day if we were still doing picks, but a little late for that now. A little late for that.
Behind these guys, you see the number 34, Jacob Stofko, that red Mustang. He is still leading in Pro-Am, and by a slightly healthier margin, up to about 1.3, 1.2 seconds, roughly. He's got a car in between, but that's Roman Pascucci, and we saw at the beginning of the show just how aggressive Roman would be. So nothing's guaranteed yet there for Stofko. Meanwhile, battle for 3rd. This is just in the shadow of the leaders. How aggressive do these guys want to be, or do they want to try and maybe, I don't know, tango up to the top 2?
I mean, 5 minutes, 2 second gap. I think it's time for these two to tango with each other. And maybe a bit of an aggressive tango.
I think there's still time. We're going to go in, you know, slightly deeper territory than just 40 minutes. The way this is going to work out, we are going to get a 20-lap race still. We're on lap 17, so we still have 3 laps to go. 3 and change, since we haven't taken 3 to go. We've still got a little more racing than it might look like on the timer. You see 5 minutes at Road America, you think that's nothing. And if we had a caution flag, it truly would be nothing. It'd be maybe a lap. But these guys still have 3 laps to go when they get back to the stripe. I think we could see a little more racing than you might think. If Mateo and Saavedra were to buckle down, and if these two get to racing, I wouldn't rule anything out.
Well, there's only one way to tell, and that's giving it time.
Once again, a big thank you to our partners with the series. Of course, we saw them earlier: Maradness, JS Consulting, Screw Compressor Service Incorporated. So many great and wonderful people, groups, products, partners help out with this series to make these seasons possible each and every time. I think we're working on season number 13 next season when the Porsche Cups get back in action. I think we're on 12 right now overall of the season, and that's not including the Sunday cash races that were held last year in 2025. Just as far as broadcasted seasons here on Pit Stop TV, this is season 9 of GT3. We're coming up on season 4 of Porsche Cup. That is staggering, just how much racing these guys have gone through in a 5-year period. Props to Scott Reister for continuing to organize, I think, the best road racing series on iRacing. At least privately run iRacing series on iRacing. So once again, props to Scott Reister, another season on the way. And a big thank you to our partners here at the channel: Whiplash Simcams, MXWraps.com, ATVO, Murtis Esports, CC's Business, the North American Racing League, Whiplash Creative, and TZO Designs. It'll be 2 laps to go this next time by the stripe. I will say 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th are tightening up here, Blue. We've now got Mateo, Saavedra, Rico, and Benitez all within 2 seconds. So as much as I'm trying to be optimistic about them catching the leaders, that's not going to happen, I don't think. But we are going to have a 4-car fight in at least some way, because Rico and Benitez have buckled down and they're making time.
I'm always excited to see big fights like this. Multi-car, big fights, multiple positions to gain. I mean, in my opinion, it's the heart of racing. And we got a few laps. I hope I didn't just see Mateo spin. I'm looking at the relative, I'm assuming not. As we have Rublar within 0.1 of Veloso. And side by side for P3 here.
2 really good fights. That's a swap, though.
Mateo.
Yep, that swap for 3rd. So Mateo thankfully not spinning, but did lose a spot regardless. This is going to be interesting now. Does Saavedra maybe back Mateo up? Let him start fighting with those couple of Mercs.
And I wonder how often that strategy is used. Purposefully slow down just enough to back this driver up and put him back into these other guys' hands. And let me run away with it.
Meanwhile, leaders into turn 5, here they are into this hard braking zone, passing opportunity, no change there. And then here's the fight for 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th, their nose to tail. The fight in Pro-Am has picked back up. Here we go, move to the inside. Wow, how is that going to work? Mateo out of nowhere, off the top rope, merely moved Saavedra out of the way. We're not done. And there you go, Saavedra shuts the door right in his face. Says, you stay in there. You stay behind me. That's not how this is going to go. The Pro-Am fight is picking up for the lead. This is still a little more close, a little more exciting right now. This final minute and a half, really 2.5 minutes, about to be the most chaotic yet.
And that's saying a lot considering what we saw just earlier today in the sprint race, roughly 40 minutes ago. Get a nice big sniff of the rear end of Saavedra, Mateo side by side. Backing it up.
Lockstep formation, no change there. Wait though, Mateo finds a way through on the left side into Bill Mitchell. Pass made, contact included. There they go!
Ooh.
3 of the 4 all crashing into turn 14. That's going to wipe out a big midsection. What is that rejoin? Saavedra My goodness, just back across the racetrack. Now he's on Apex. White flag for the leaders. I couldn't think of a more dramatic happening suddenly as we come around to get the white flag. Brought to you by Whiplash Simcams. There's Stofko. There's Maron. As Felipe and Mateo are side by side. Does Mateo know he's got no rear wing? This certainly can't end well in turn 1.
Find out here soon if he does. It may just be showing us off. A little bit slippery though.
He's not handling right. I think he's starting to realize it's just making it around the corners for now. But I don't think that's sustainable for the full lap. I think the carousel's where it's going to bite him the most. Rico now in the pit lane. He's done. Felipe got away. Here's Blainat. He is now racing with Mateo. Here comes Pascucci around Mateo. All while the overall leaders are battling up here. Still no change between these two. Rubilar needs a way by. And here we go. Pros again. Now on the front bumper of our Pro-Am leaders. How is it going to impact them? The red car is Pro-Am leader Jacob Stofko. The blue and yellow car, that's Nicholas Mateo. He was just involved in that crash in turn 14. Stofko trying to go around the outside. The pink car on your frame, that is Roman Pascucci. He's been uber aggressive tonight. Here's the battle into the carousel. This is where I thought Mateo might spin.
It could be a little bit of iRacing jing.
It might be.
How planted that car is.
Final braking zone. That's a real big opportunity here for Rubilar. No dice. But we saw what happened last lap. Anything can happen here. Can Victor Veloso win the feature race here at America? He stays defensive into turn 14. That might open the door to the draft for Rubilar, but up the hill to the checkered flag. The feature race will go to Victor Veloso in car number 10. But we've still got the Pro-Am fight here. They are. Jacob Stofko just needs to mash that gas back up the hill, and he will have swept it this evening at Road America in Pro-Am. What a run out of Stofko.
Beautiful racing from Stofko. I mean, he's got to be yelling in that car right now. No way he isn't. I mean, what a finish here, fighting for the podium of Pro. I mean, you don't expect to see things like that, and that's what makes it even crazier to see things like that, those from these guys. And it reminds you, everyone can have incidents, and incidents can, I mean, always change the way the race it lines up.
A few more cars coming to the stripe. Here they are at the back end of the field. We still have a few yet to finish. Rico didn't take the final lap, but here comes Romain Rateau up and over the crest in his Porsche. He will finish this race 19th tentatively. Jose Correa 21st, or 20th rather, and then Ricardo Delgado 21st. I really do believe we're going to see some penalties in post out of this race. A lot went unpenalized there in the sprint. A lot went unpenalized there in the feature. We're going to read the race results in just a moment. Take it all with a grain of salt. I don't think anything can be considered official other than maybe each winner. I think that was relatively uncontroversial tonight. Certainly in stark contrast to what we saw on Tuesday with BRB at Mexico City. This, I think, will be cut and dry for the win. Everything else, a little more up in the air. And yes, Saavedra, on incidents alone, he's just been dropped to 19th overall. So that has changed up the order at least a good little bit. Let's go back and get an unofficial look at your race results this evening. Again, I want to very heavily stress the word unofficial here on this next graphic. But let's take a look. Victor Veloso in the feature race gets the win. I think that much, and even the spot behind are pretty solid right now, Blue, but otherwise it gets a little more murky. Maybe even the top three, because Ralph Benitez, I think, was relatively uncontroversial there. Dino Filippo, Juan Blainat. Again, I don't know what is and isn't going to change. Roman Pascucci was initially 6th there, but on my other monitor, oh no, it was Saavedra that got penalized. He goes down to 19th. So then Stofko wins in Pro-Am. Noel Marone, Miguel Colon, and Nicholas Mateo, your top 10. Again, I think some stuff in there is going to change.
I think so too. I wouldn't be surprised to see a bit of changes there.
On to page number 2. This is, of course, 11th through 20th overall. Hector Alvarez, that is 4th in Pro-Am. Jackson Rosende finishes 12th in class. That is 8th in pro. Then it's Angel Ledesma, Jose Ramirez, Lucas Souza, Icaro Piccolo, Blas Diaz, Romain Rateau. That is 13th through 18th overall, but that is 5th through 10th in Pro-Am. That is Marcos Saavedra and Jose Correa at the back end of the top 20. A little bit deeper in the field, guys that had some bad luck. Ricardo Delgado, Ricardo Rico, Joaquin Melo, Daniel Antunes out early, Chris Winstone out early, along with Andy Ray Miller, Diego Era, William Oro Silva, Nick DePaula, and Scott Kimbrough of our 30 cars that signed in this evening. They didn't all take the green flag, but they at least signed into this race, and now we await drivers as we get to kind of take a moment. You know, after Formula One races, they send the podium drivers to the debrief room, right? You get to hear their unfiltered, well, relatively unfiltered chatter about the race that just took place. We get to kind of do that ourselves a little bit here, Blue. We get to kind of think a little bit while the drivers take their moments to also kind of debrief and then head over to the interview room. How are we feeling after that? Because that was a lot to take in.
I mean, really eventful all the way through. I mean, there wasn't any lap that I wasn't like, oh, that's happening. You know, there was something going on everywhere. And there were a lot of really rough incidents throughout this one, which isn't always great to see, but it's also coming up to the end of the season where I think we're going to see drivers getting more aggressive, like I said, trying to get more into the standings, or to the overall standings, trying to get as many positions as they can for that. Even if they aren't going to win the championship, you know, it still looks nice to put, you know, top 5 finish in ARL.
We are pinging drivers over in the North American Racing League Discord server for their interviews. Basically, top 3. We'll guarantee an opportunity to talk if you're first or second. Third place, certainly worth connecting as an alternate if we don't get one of the 2 ahead of you. Looking ahead, though, here in Pro, Watkins Glen, that is always a chaotic race. And take these Pro guys, bottle them up, and put them around the fastest... I think fastest average corner speed circuit on the schedule. Is that fair? I mean, Watkins Glen, you are flying around that place, especially in GT3 cars that have the downforce to properly get around the corners. I mean, NASCAR is going there this weekend, right? And they run their shorter cup circuit. We did a broadcast like that Sunday. They're still pretty quick, and they don't have all the downforce these GT3 cars have. I think Watkins Glen can make a very easy argument to at least be in the top end of average corner speed for circuits on this schedule.
Top end, I think it's maybe Road America above it and Suzuka just barely below it. Looking at this, maybe don't throw Spa in there. Don't throw Spa in there. I was gonna say throw Spa in there. Don't throw Spa in there. I mean, it's a fast track. Watkins, it's gonna be a lot of fun to watch. We're gonna see a lot of bus stop action. We're gonna see a lot. I forgot the corners there after the bus stop, but we're gonna see a lot there. I know that much at least, and I'm excited to see all of it.
Well, it does look like Nicholas Rubelar has connected for an interview, so we'll kick things off by speaking with him. And Nicholas, it's second place there in the feature, obviously a little behind the 8 ball in the sprint. I think you started 7th. What was that race like for you?
Yeah, I mean, it was tough. It was knowing the position I was coming into this race already, so I was just trying to minimize as much as possible the damage. And well, I had some good side-by-sides there with Ralph and the other people, so yeah, overall it's a really positive day.
And of course, you are just on the edge of that championship fight. I can only imagine the sheer pressure and the whirlwind you've gone through. I don't really know how to best approach this, but let's be honest, Nicholas, we see the different livery. We've heard some of the conversation about Drago Racing folding between VIR and today. What has that affected on your side, preparation's sake, right? Just getting into this race, getting prepared. How has that changed your flow to be ready here tonight?
Well, I mean, to be honest, it's such a shame what happened with Drago. We had a really great group and we achieved a ton of good results, and well, the group the work group was really great also. But well, to keep getting these results, I cannot stop working, and same for my teammates. So we are still preparing it together, and yeah, I mean, the result now it's the fruit of the work that we did pre-race.
And of course, final round in a few weeks at Watkins Glen. I know you pro guys have a lot going on throughout the week. This only occupies, 1.5% or so of your week as a whole. Watkins Glen, there was a pretty crazy circuit for GT3 cars to do battle at. What's the expectation from your side? How crazy do you expect that final round to be there?
I mean, it's going to be I think the craziest round, considering how close we are reaching the championship, and it's gonna be basically give it all and all or nothing, basically. Well, I haven't raced this new version of Watkins Glen with the new bus stop, but I heard there were some changes also with how the off track is working, so it's looking very promising.
Yeah, I saw that in the release notes yesterday, the off-tracks in the bus stop being changed. So basically, you can't put 4 wheels over the curb on entry there at all. That's going to be a big change. I think everybody who's kind of learned it, even from 6-hour races the last couple of years, that's a big change. But hey, Nicholas, congratulations on still a solid result here tonight. I know it's not the win that you would have wanted, but this is a good bit of points in the bag for you. Congratulations, and hopefully we're talking to you in a few weeks with some good news.
I hope so as well. Thank you for hosting the stream and the championship, and see you next time.
And hey, your fan club is alive and well right now in YouTube chat. Jordan White is very emphatic that you were able to get this win tonight. Hey, again, Nicholas, congratulations, and rooting for Rubilar, I guess.
Yeah, shout out to Jordan White, the best fan ever. So yeah, see you next race.
I appreciate it. Congratulations. And yeah, moving on down, we'll actually go up a position on the results sheet. We're going to go up to Victor Veloso, who wins this feature race. And Victor, I mean, it's always a feat to win one of these NARL races, whether it's AM, Pro-Am, or especially Pro. You guys dueled it out tonight. It was not easy to get this one over Nicholas Rubilar and everybody else. How chaotic was it for you in the car, and also how much pressure were you under to stay out front?
Good evening, everyone. It was a great day for me, despite the bad start in the first race. I had a great qualifying session, and in the future race, I managed to maintain a good pace. Obviously, I had the best car here today, so that helped me a lot. After the pit stop, I knew that Rubilar needed to save a little bit more, so I just made the move and tried the best to stay in the track and wait for his moves. But I think the Ford doesn't have a straight speed line, so that helped me a lot. And I was calm, but of course. Concentrate, and I don't know, just today was a good day.
A similar question to what I just asked Nicholas. Of course, Watkins Glen, in NASCAR terms, we have kind of a colloquialism, like a saying with Watkins Glen when we do those broadcasts with NASCAR cars. We call it a Popeye's biscuit away from an oval. Basically, it's basically an oval for a road course. Even the boot layout that you guys will be running in GT3 cars is pretty simple, I think, in general, compared to a lot of racetracks we visit, and it's super fast. We saw a lot of chaos tonight. How much more chaotic do you expect it to be in 3 weeks at Watkins Glen?
It will be a tough race. I don't know about the Mercedes there, but it will be a chaos, right?
Chaos is ensured, I think. But hey, good to talk to you, Victor. I know you've been running all season, right? I think maybe you might have missed one round, but you've been just clawing and fighting. Finally, it pays off. Congratulations. It's good to talk to you here tonight.
Thank you. Good night.
Victor Veloso with a solid result here at Road America. And that brings us down to our third driver to speak to this evening. That is our Pro-Am winner, Jacob Stofko, able to finally do good on all of the good praises that we've given you lately, Jacob. A big race win, not just one, but two this evening, sweeping the night. And was this ever on your radar for tonight?
Hey guys, thank you very much for having me. Yeah, it was. It wasn't on my radar for sure. I knew that Road America is my favorite track, and I can be strong there, but I wasn't. Yeah, I wasn't expecting such a good result.
And here you are, sweeping the evening in Pro-Am. And, you know, I know you're a little ways out of the Pro-Am championship fight, right? But this is certainly going to put you at the top end of the guys who are just on the edge out. I think, you know, kind of the best of the rest fight. And it's certainly going to shake things up of the guys who are in the championship lead. That sounds fun to me as a driver. I would love to just kind of be the X factor, right? I mean, that sounds like a fun opportunity. Obviously, you want to win things. Hey, you can still win these races. So how do you replicate this and go and try and do it again at Watkins Glen? Or no, yeah, 2 weeks. Sorry, 3 weeks.
Yeah, it's going to be tough for me because I'm going on vacation starting next week. I'm going to be out for 2 weeks, so I basically will come like 2 days before the race. So there will be very little time for me to practice. But again, Watkins Glen is one of the tracks that is driven a lot, so I have a lot of laps there. So hopefully I can do good there. To be honest, like I'm just approaching this championship race to race, trying to have fun and survive these tough battles and complicated situations because everyone is so equal there. And it's been playing out very well for me past 4 races. I think at the beginning I didn't have that much time, that much luck, and that's why I'm kind of behind in the championship. So I'm just enjoying myself and racing with these guys. I mean, the pro category is just insane. Those guys are super quick. Even when I was in P1 at the race 2, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna be struggling with these guys, and I just managed to let them go, keep up with them, and that was my plan.
And you end up taking a pretty solid result, all things told. Obviously, the win in class in both races tonight, 8th in the sprint, 7th in the feature. That's pretty solid. What about chaos, though? End of the race, especially those last couple of laps, everything unfolded a short way up the road from you, and then was suddenly on your nose there, the final couple of laps.
Yeah, it was fun. I was trying to, like I said, manage the traffic and kind of. I knew it's gonna be all about how effective I'm gonna let fast guys go and try to lose as little time as possible with them, because there was no way I could keep up with them at the moment. So I was just trying to lose as little time as possible, don't get in the battles with them, and I think it went well. I did few mistakes in the race too, which cost me some time, so that's I think why it ended up so close at the end. But yeah, I think everything worked well, and I'm super happy, and it was fun.
And Jacob, I think it's safe to say you're probably gonna be the final driver we talk to tonight. You are also leading the driver of the day vote that we typically end right after or shortly after interviews. I'm going to go hit end poll. Congratulations. You're tonight's driver of the day. That's got to feel, extra good. You just swept the 2 Pro-Am races, top 10 in both, top 8 in both. You started on pole for the feature. I mean, Jacob Stofko is going to be one of the hottest drivers in the market. I mentioned earlier, obviously I don't know what your team situation is. Are you looking to maybe upgrade the ride, kind of move up, or are you happy, building where you are? I have no clue.
That's a really funny question, but I'm actually owner and the founder and manager of the team that you guys see. It's America Esports, so I'm more kind of like a manager than the driver. So it's actually opposite side. If guys are interested to join, and I'm going to use you guys as a little
absolutely.
Little promo, but if anyone is interested to join us, feel free to let me know and we can come up with something. But yeah.
Absolutely. Use us for exactly that purpose. There's never a shameless plug around here. Jacob, congratulations. A really solid day, and that's a pretty good, I think, advertisement to go join you and race with you. Congrats.
Thank you very much, guys, and you guys are doing a great job also with these broadcasts. I always have fun to watch it backwards, so good job and thank you.
Hey, thanks for your time tonight. Congratulations. That's a cool guy. I'm glad we got to talk to him tonight, especially with a couple of wins. That was a good chat there, Blue, and hey, congrats to him, driver of the day. That's that's some pretty high honors against all the pros and whatnot. To shine as brightly as he did tonight, that's a feel-good story once again. So that's a good ending to the night.
Absolutely, I must agree. Very happy for him getting driver of the day, and very happy he's pretty complicit staying at Miramaca, considering he's mostly running things there.
Yeah, kind of running the show and doing a good job of it here in the North American Racing League. It's tough to win over here, really high competition. So congrats to him, and he needs some teammates, I think. So anyways, congratulations, of course, to our winners this evening. A big thank you to Muradness, JS Consulting, Screw Compressor Service Incorporated, and Rocket Designs for making these events possible, these seasons possible, week on week, year on year. A big thank you as well to our partners here at the channel who make everything we do possible, day in, day out, it seems. Whiplash, SimCams, MXWraps.com, ATVO, Murtis Esports, CC's Business, the North American Racing League, Whiplash Creative, and TZO Designs. Any final thoughts as we kind of all take a collective sigh here? Now that this round is finally in the books, we have one more to go.
Let's hope this next one's even better.
I think it will be. One round to go, each in pro, each in AM. Anything else?
Not that I can think of. I don't have anything else in my head. I kind of already gotten it out. I mean, it's been a wonderful season. We're going to have a wonderful closer to the season here at Watkins Glen here in a few weeks. I'm just excited to see what's happening. I'm looking forward here.
I can tell you what's happening, at least upcoming here at the channel. The next 3 broadcasts on the channel look like this. A whole lot of Speedway Motorsports Incorporated venues, as we've got Charlotte, Dover, and I can tell you Tuesday is Texas. We have got 4 tracks, all on the same company. 2 are the exact same. We've got trucks on track for Steel Nation, 124 laps at Charlotte on Friday. Then Saturday, we've got either 50 or 60 laps for Legend Cars on the quarter mile at Charlotte this Saturday evening to kick off the All-American Racing Network Race for a Cause charity event this Saturday evening. Then we've got ARCA Cars for a Better Half Dash ladies race. That should be a bunch of fun. 30 laps for those ladies. That'll be exciting. And then the boys get back at it. 100 laps, it looks like, under the lights at Charlotte in NASCAR Craftsman trucks. That's going to be a bunch of fun. You can donate to the Susan G. Komen Foundation. I believe the league is kind of taking donations in a separate, like not used for other league dues, a separate PayPal to then just send straight over to Susan G. Komen in one fell swoop. Just make it all happen, and then it also is easier to get a collective total as to how much was donated through this event, how much was generated through this event. Drivers making the donations, getting signed up. You should too in the Pit Stop TV Discord. We can make that happen for you. So that should be a lot of fun on Saturday. And then Monday, we have the Northern Retro Cup Series, Dover Motor Speedway. That's going to be a lot of fun. 240 laps at the Monster Mile in 2003 NASCAR Cup Cars. BRB comes back on Tuesday. They head to Texas Motor Speedway in those ARCA cars. We've got Wednesday action with 410 Sprint Cars at Eldora, and Thursday action, of course, next week with NARL AM drivers and teams at, here, Road America. Should be a lot of fun. So a lot coming up, always racing to watch, whether it's live or on demand here at Pit Stop TV on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch. Thanks so much for watching. That will do it for us this evening. Blue, thanks for being here once again. It's been fun having you here on the back end of the schedule. I'm excited. 1 round each in each series. Gonna be a lot of fun. Don't miss it. The next couple of weeks here at Pit Stop TV, you want to come back.
Bye.